What you just watched is my entry to the Hitfilm Scare Us in 20 Seconds competition that happened this October. And today I'm going to break down exactly how I did each effect. So, let's get into it. First thing we're going to talk about is the special effect. So if you don't know the difference between special effects and visual effects, basically special effects are things that happen in camera, like makeup and pyrotechnics, and visual effects are anything that's done in the computer, like muzzle flashes, or in this case, tearing my face off. The makeup on this project was done 100% by Kaylee. She's amazing. You might recognize her from the Chaos City series, as well as she's the one that designed the merch. So she does commissions. You guys can get some of her amazing artwork at her Instagram here on the screen. So she started off by applying some amazing special effects makeup to our actor Hannah, who is also a very talented artist. Instagram here. It was actually really disappointing because the makeup turned out amazing, but in the actual film, almost none of the shots actually show it off because of the massive time restraints on it. But we did get an amazing photo shoot of it, so those photos will be going up on Instagram very soon after this video is posted. But while she was doing that, I was outside rolling around in the dirt to add a little bit more detail to the costume and kind of tie the scene together a little bit more. Once the face makeup was done, we created some homemade scar wax so we could add some cracks to the hand. If you want to know how we made that, we followed this tutorial by Film Riot. You'll see the iCard just above me. We also mixed up a batch of fake blood, but we didn't end up using it mainly because the dye would have stained our hands, as well as there wasn't as much coverage that would show that off, so we didn't really feel a need to use it. But now that we finished the makeup on Hannah, we went into filming our first few shots. So we had this wooded backdrop that we used throughout the entire thing, as well as there was this campfire, which Hannah used to cover her hands in char. So right now we are getting some ash on her feet because she steps on me.
Gotta burn you to ashes.
So she's doing her rain dance.
My rain dance!
Ooh, that's crispy. We love that.
Since there wasn't much time to actually look at each shot because the film is only 20 seconds long, I wanted almost no time to be spent actually trying to pick apart the details. So a lot of the shots have a really intense bokeh to separate the element from the background. We started by filming a bunch of fillers. I wasn't sure if I was going to actually use any of them, but it's better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it. Next thing was the big stunts. It wasn't too extreme, but it did help to show the character's struggle, and as well as it added a little bit more of an intense punch right in the middle.
Bang!
Nice.
There's actually a lot of unused footage from this shot. We just kept going, and I ended up cutting it halfway through because, once again, the time. But it really did help sell the struggle, like the desperate crawl and like the pain in the face. It's a shame to let go of half of these shots because all of them were so well executed from both Hannah and me. On the topic of acting, Hannah absolutely killed the role of the villain. She was this huge powerhouse of the entire thing. She had power in each step, and it was absolutely terrifying. And a lot of the shots, like just me looking up at this, and she really sold it, went all in, and it was intense.
And go.
Frick 'em up, bean.
After filming the fall, we went back inside to do my makeup. Once again, Kaylee absolutely killed it with the special effects makeup. Our goal was to tie in-camera practical with VFX, so we wanted to do as much of it practically as we could. So all of the burning around my face, 100% real, and everything with the skull was 100% digital. After that, we went outside, filmed the remainder of the shots we have, and we actually went to the very last second. I was using the camera on loan. Literally, we were filming the last shots as my sister was coming in to pick up the camera. We filmed a couple of final shots on a phone just so we had a little bit of a safety net in case there was a couple more that we needed. And then it was to the editing table. I'll say it right now, I am a freelance video editor as well as an editing teacher. Both of the links to my services down in the description. If you want to hire me as a short-term or long-term video editor, or you want to learn just generally editing or a very specific effect as well, you can contact me through those links. Now, this video is going to be a button-by-button tutorial. It's more or less going to be teaching you the concepts and ideas that went behind it, because if you guys want to recreate this, I want it to be your own video. But once again, if you want to learn specific things about how I did it, you can contact me through those links and I will be willing to teach you. Anyways, back to the editing. I'm actually going to start with part of the final shot, and it's the smoky hands. Now this was partially outside of Hitfilm, my editing software, and it was actually mostly in Blender. So I set the shot that I was working on as a background in Blender and imported a basic hand 3D model that I got off TurboSquid and tried my best to match it to the pose that the hand was making in the scene. Now, I didn't need to animate this just because the hand didn't move too much, so I could get away with most of it through tracking later on. Next, I used the quick smoke effect and dialed some of the settings to make it a little more heavier so it sit there and created this really thick billowing smoke from the hands. Now, I would have liked to do this in cycles, but on the massive time restraints I had, that wasn't an option. If you don't know the difference between cycles and EV, basically cycles tracks a lot more of the light rays reflecting off of certain surfaces and diffusing different shadows. And EV is a little bit more of a simplistic real-time render. To show you the difference, here's a render that I did of a donut that I modeled in Blender. So I knew that there was going to be a lot of post work that I would have to do on the smoke, so I decided the best way to do it would be to layer it, change the lightness and darkness of different layers so that it filled the space of the smoke a little more and actually had different clouds of layer. Finally, on one of the middle layers, I added the glow effect and changed the colors to be a little bit more of a red-green tone to give it the warmth that I wanted, and then keyframed the intensity to gradually increase over the length of the shot. Next shot. Next, we'll focus on the zap. Now this was pretty simple. I started with the lightning effect, which can be found in pretty much any compositing software, and then I changed the preset to this red lightning bolt that you see in the final product and turned the branches down to 1. Next, I animated the start point to follow the hand all the way up through the entire shot, and animated the end point to start at the hand and impact the leg at the point that I wanted. Next was a simple dust impact on the leg that I just used a basic asset I found online, and a lens flare. And then, there you have it, a demon lightning zap for some reason. Now, here's where I would have done something differently. I would have put tracking markers on the actual face so that it would be easier to track in post. Now, we didn't do this because of the massive time restraints, as well as I didn't want to have to manually roto out each tracking marker in each shot, because I've been there before. Never again. So anyways, I put one tracking marker on the nose, which held surprisingly well, and I put another tracking marker right above the eyebrow in one of the areas with the most contrast, which was an absolute pain to track. Because since when has editing made sense? Now originally I had intended to make the skull a 3D model in Blender and track the motion of the head, but I realized since the movements are so slight, I could get away with just using an HD image of a skull and just digitally match the lighting in Hitfilm. So I applied the tracking data to a new point layer and turned the skull into a 3D layer. And then I spent a solid 20 minutes trying to make sure that the skull was accurately lined up to the face. And then I parented the skull to the tracking point so that it followed the movement of the head. But now you may be wondering, hey Ethan, why does it look like a cheap Halloween mask made by a toddler that pirated an image of a skull off Google and duct taped it to their face? To which I'll respond, why are you so mean to me? It's because we haven't done anything to the head. Geez, you guys should know this by now. So anyways, let's fix that. I started off by trying to pull a key from the face, which actually worked pretty well. The only thing is there was a bunch of bits and pieces missing from the scene. So I duplicated the layer and rotoed everything besides the head back into the shot. So after this, I put the skull layer under the head layer and adjusted anything that I have to with the key. The only thing that I really had to change was a little bit of the gamma setting. A really good thing to keep in mind is, when you're trying to dial settings, even if you think it's good, push a little further and push a little further until eventually it's too much, and then backtrack, because you might find something that's actually better than the one that you originally thought. Next, I fixed the skull position a little bit more, now that it's actually in context underneath the head. But after this, we're pretty close to being done. Just the only thing is color. This looks way too white based on the rest of our scene. And since the skull isn't visible for too long, I'm able to do this in the very simplest way, and I just added a basic curves effect. So I brought down a little bit of the highlights and pushed it a little more into the shadows. Since it's already this whitish brown tone, it pretty closely matched the scene just by doing this. But if I needed to, I could go in and adjust the red, green, and blue settings to make it a little bit closer to what I actually need. But after this, it was just a simple color grade, and then boom, here's the finished product once again. So if you guys like my editing, consider subscribing, because this is just a weekly thing for me. I say weekly like my upload schedule isn't completely messed up, but not the point. And if you're a business or YouTuber or whatever looking for an editor, you can hire me by the link in the description. As well as if you're looking for a way to support the channel, the merch page is in the description as well. But yeah, I wanted to say thank you guys for watching this far, and see you next time.